No, I mean, that Washington UCLA game, that's going to be a big revealer about each team. And, here's the point to remember about Washington. Hasn't played a single road game yet. Did not venture outside of Seattle throughout September. And, if you've studied the Pac-12 over the years, you know that Washington, when it takes the road trips to Southern California and the state of Arizona especially, usually goes wrong for the Huskies. For whatever reason, when they go to a warm weather site, it just all seems to spin sideways. Washington goes to Arizona State later this year. Washington has not won in Tempe since 2001. So, this is certainly a year of, if you don't do it now, Huskies, when are you ever going to do it in Tempe? But same dynamic at UCLA, that on paper you would think that what Washington's done in the first month of the season, and while USC has feasted on cupcakes, and we can call Colorado a cupcake within the conference because Colorado is just so unfathomably bad. Washington on paper looks like the favorite in this game, but the Huskies have to get over that road trip in a warm climate bugaboo that has dogged the program in the past. So, yeah, we're going to find out about both of those teams. And from a USC perspective, and I wrote about this in our Pac-12 notebook, which we publish every week, usually on Mondays at Trojans Wire. If you're a USC fan, okay, you hate UCLA. Of course you hate UCLA. But if UCLA beats Washington, that improves the Trojans' odds of making the Pac-12 championship game, because you put a dent in Washington's win-loss record in the conference, and the Huskies would have to win out to get to 8-1. And in the Pac-12, we always talk about 8-1 because no one's ever gone 9-0 in the Pac-12. 2010, Oregon went 9-0 in the Pac-10. That was the last year of the Pac-10 before the additions of Colorado and Utah. No one's gone 9-0 since the Pac-10 became the Pac-12. So if you're 8-1, that's the goal in terms of getting to the Pac-12 championship game, winning the conference, going to the Rose Bowl, having a shot at the playoff. So if UCLA beats Washington, well, that really screws up the Huskies, who then have to play Oregon, Washington State, Oregon State, the Pacific Northwest trifecta. So, if you're a USC fan, do you want UCLA to lose?
Check it out.
You could, but maybe not. So that's going to be a really interesting dilemma for USC fans in terms of balancing hatred of the Bruins versus odds of making the Pac-12 championship game. That's going to be a really interesting point this upcoming Friday. In terms of reviewing the past weekend, and I know I'm a USC blogger, I follow the Trojans, but in terms of fanning out and just looking at this situation for other schools in the conference, if I'm at Oregon State, if I'm in Corvallis, if I'm at Washington State in Pullman, I'm not happy that we gave a good game to USC or Oregon. I'm mad we let these games slip away. Washington State under Jake Dickert, a good defensive coach. You have a 12-point lead with 4 minutes left. That has to be a W. You got to lock that down. And to let that slip away, that is a bad missed opportunity. And then for Oregon State, gosh, your defense could not have played any better. USC had one touchdown drive of longer than 26 yards, and your quarterback throws 4 picks. If Chance Nolan throws only 2 interceptions instead of 4, you win the game, maybe even comfortably. So that's a huge missed opportunity, and these things do not come around regularly in Pullman or Corvallis. That's the thing. I wrote about this at our Voice of College Football Substack, which Mark Rogers has rolled out. So I wrote about how Arkansas, Oregon State, and Washington State, they suffered the worst losses of Week 4. Now, you might say, whoa, Mario Cristobal in Miami, they lost to Middle Tennessee at home in a blowout as a 26-point favorite. Wasn't that loss worse? Well, from a certain vantage point, it's worse. But I made the point that when you're a program where contending for a conference championship, contending for a New Year's Six Bowl is not something you can expect on a regular annual basis, and you have an opportunity to do that, and you have a game that's a big game that's right there to win, and you lose it, that is a big missed opportunity for a program. And so Oregon State and Washington State are really in the same boat. And so if I'm a Beaver fan or a Cougar fan, I'm not happy about the moral victory. I'm not happy about coming close, and Washington State fans might bristle at this, but Cougan it, continued to happen. And we say this all the time in the Pac-12. We use that hashtag, and I know the Cougar fans hate it, but That was Couging it, and you can't keep Couging it if you're up there in Pullman. So when those special opportunities come along, you need to grab them. I think if you're in comparing Washington State and Oregon State, I would say that the long-term outlook beyond 2022, it's brighter at Oregon State because you have Research Stadium being renovated, so you're going to have an even bigger home field advantage in Corvallis in the coming years. And also, Jonathan Smith has built a really good infrastructure, and if he just can get that one position, quarterback, figured out, and of course, Jonathan Smith is a former quarterback, so you would think he could figure it out, then Oregon State might be able to become a regular player in the Pac-12. So I think Oregon State has more upside and more potential than Washington State. But still, these opportunities do not come along every year in Corvallis and Pullman. So those two programs, I think you don't like the moral victory. You need to be mad that you let those games get away.